Hi everyone, I think it's time that we get started. For those of you that don't know me, my name is John Brown. I'm the Dean of the School of Architecture, Planning and Landscape, and I am thrilled to welcome you to our space, the City Building Design Lab, and our Design Matters lecture series. It's important to make note of the fact that we're meeting on the land of the traditional people of Treaty 7, who have stewarded this land for many, many generations. I think particularly for this evening, as we're talking about planning, which is about stewardship, that we make note of the fact that the indigenous peoples of this land stewarded this environment for thousands of years in an effective, environmentally sustainable kind of way. And I think we also need to acknowledge that as colonial visitors, uninvited guests on this land, in a very short period of time, we have made a mess of things in lots of ways, and particularly in terms of land stewardship, the built environment, the natural environment. And I think it's important as professionals that we think about that, we acknowledge that, and that we look to how we can continue in a good way. Of course, it's not just indigenous peoples that have suffered. We also have other racialized groups, and of course, women who have also been underrepresented in our professions and under cared for within our built environment. Which brings us to this evening's presentation. So just to conclude, the people of Treaty 7 are the Stoney Nakoda, the Tsuut'ina, and the Goodstone First Nations, as well as the Blackfoot Confederacy. And I also make note that the city of Calgary is home to Métis Region 3. I think that's all I have to say today, other than I'm very pleased that you're here, and I hope that you will come and join us for our next Design Matters, which is normally here on my speaker notes, but it's November 29th. Thank you, Anita. November 29th. And with that, I'm going to pass the podium over to Dr. Getachew Asefa, who is our Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, to make some comments on the importance of gender-responsive planning. Getachew.
Good evening. Welcome everyone. As EDI Director, it's my great pleasure to be here today. And here at SAPO, we have not only EDI Directorship, but also we are a member of a North American Design School Group, at both at the Dean level and at the Director Advisor level for EDI issues. So as design school, we need, of course, to prioritize equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. And part of tonight, in terms of gender-responsive planning, is crucial that we need to address the diverse needs of the community. So our curriculum, our practice, our community engagement should reflect that important reality. And part of that is also accommodating for the diverse mobility patterns of different genders, ensuring safe and free movement through our cities. And in terms of incorporating these principles in our design school, it's not about producing skilled designers, professionals, but it's also about nurturing compassionate, responsible professionals who can shape our cities now and tomorrow. And it's this, that's why this kind of discussion that we will have tonight is very crucial. And that's why I look forward to Dr. Sara Candiracci's presentation today on gender responsive planning in today's Design Matters episode. I would like to thank our team who have been working hard and to continue to work hard in coordinating this kind of episodes tonight, in the past and in the future. Francisco, Graham, Anita, and others. And also, it's my pleasure that to tell everyone who is here, we are sponsoring a Women and Society event a week from now. So this is not part of just one event. I will now pass the floor to Professor Francisco Arup, who would introduce Dr. Sara Candiracci and as well as moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Garashu. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all here, and it is really a pleasure, and I'm very excited to introduce Dr. Sara Candiracci. I teach in the planning program at our school, and this is one of the topics that is very pertinent and very urgent, let's say, in our practice of planning, but in general, just as a way to plan, understand, and really build better places for all of us, right? And since it's an emergent topic, even though that in some cases I feel we're very late at addressing some of these topics, it's great to have the opportunity to learn from others' experiences. And today is a great opportunity to learn from an expert, a global expert on this topic. So we really tried to get her in person here today, but it couldn't be arranged. But she has been very generous to join us from Shanghai. It's very early, I believe, over there. But we really appreciate her effort on joining us and sharing this experience with us. An experience that is both applied and in research, an experience that when it comes to this topic is about process and not only about the final product of our spaces, but the process is very, very important, right? So I'm excited to learn more about her work, and let me introduce her with these notes here. Sara Candiracci is an associate director in Arup's Cities Planning and Design team in Milan, and the global leader for social value and equity. She also leads Arup's work on gender-responsive urban planning and on child-friendly and playful cities. With more than 2 decades of experience as an urban planner, researcher, and international development expert, Sara has been at the forefront of designing and leading projects and programs focused on creating more equitable, inclusive, healthy, and resilient cities. Some examples of her work are the Proximity of Care Design Guide, the Playful Cities Design Guide, the Nature-Based Play Report, and the Cities Alive publication, Designing Cities That Work for Women. Prior to Arup, Sara has worked with UN agencies, development banks, NGOs across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. She holds a PhD in urban planning with a thesis on the role of cultural heritage in placemaking and sustainable development in East Africa. Sara believes in the power of collaborative partnerships and community engagement to achieve step change outcomes in global issues. She also has the ability and passion to use applied research to shape innovative ideas and approaches and transform them into strategies and practices that enable innovation and change. Thank you so much, Sara, for being here with us today, and please welcome Sara for this.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the introduction. It's always a bit strange to hear about yourself from someone else. But yeah, thanks for the introduction, and most importantly, thanks for inviting me to give the opportunity to share some of the knowledge we develop on this very important topic. As I said, I really wish to be there, but unfortunately there was a clash, and so I had to travel to Shanghai. But luckily, we managed to organize it virtually, which is good. Maybe just before I start to introduce the topic, maybe just a brief introduction about Arup. I'm not sure if you all know the organization I work with, but Arup is a global multidisciplinary firm which works is an engineering firm, urban planning design firm. It was created 75 years ago by Ove Arup, which was an engineer but also philosopher, and created Arup around a set of principles that are still driving the way we work. And I think what is important and I like about Arup is that is an independent firm, meaning that it's owned by its employees, which and this kind of business model help us to give us the freedom to decide the type of work we want to do. At the same time, part of the profit is invested in research, which I think is is extremely important for developing new ideas, innovative ideas, to push and take forward important agendas and to address global challenges. In fact, this publication, Designing Cities That Work for Women, was funded by Arup through these research funds that we have available for, as I said, to develop new topics. Okay, so yeah, maybe so just to start with, so this publication is a publication that Arup, as I said, funded, and we did it in collaboration with UNDP, the United Nations Development Programme, and the University of Liverpool. Yeah. So just to introduce a bit the topic, and then I will take you through the key finding, the key insight from this publication. So why we decided to do this publication? We decided to work on this very important topic because we knew and that women in cities across the world, women of different ages, identities, and also socioeconomic conditions, we are all facing intersectional challenges, barriers, and vulnerabilities, which include gender-based discrimination, inequality, violence, poverty, unpaid care work, limited control over assets, and also, most importantly, I think, is unequal participation in public and private decision-making and planning processes. And these barriers and vulnerabilities, they are made worse by global challenges, such as climate change, rapid urbanization, wars and conflicts, which data show have a huge impact on women and also children in particular. So another thing which is important is that that whether by accident or design, cities themselves, they frequently add to these gender inequalities. In fact, the way many cities are built often make women feel unsafe. They fail to provide for our basic needs and also restricts our social economic opportunities. So as a result, billions of women are underserved by the urban environment that they live and work in. And when cities are designed without considering the diverse needs and insights of women, this can have a huge impact, not only on their lives, but also on the life of their families, and more broadly on the society. So consider that 50% of the world population is made up of women. So there is a clear need to remove the gender bias that was built into our cities and to improve women's safety, health, and also access to education, development, and employment opportunities. So when we started our research work, that is now like 2 years, more or less, we started this journey. We knew that there was quite a lot written about the challenges that women face also in cities around the world. But we saw that sustained efforts to address these challenges, they have struggled to maintain momentum. At the same time, what we noticed that when talking about women, the main focus of the debate or of the policies or interventions is normally focusing on women's safety and is limited to women's safety, which is, of course, extremely important, but it needs to be considered together with other topics, together with other key issues that are important for women fulfillment and quality of life. And also we saw that by addressing, only focusing on safety was not making things better. So we so that's why we decided to join efforts with UNDP and the University of Liverpool, because we wanted to bring attention to the issue of gender inequality, in particular in the built environment, and to try to have an holistic approach when addressing this topic. So when we started, we kind of identified three main objectives. First of all, we wanted to generate evidence, which is important. Evidence about the challenges and opportunities that women of different age, socioeconomic groups, ethnicities from across the globe, the challenge that they face. Also, we wanted to explore the role of the built environment industry in creating safer, more inclusive, nurturing spaces for women. And also, as I said, we wanted to promote an holistic approach. At the same time, we wanted to be quite practical in terms of providing strategies and actions for city decision makers, practitioners to design, to understand, to design and plan cities that work for women, and focusing in particular on spatial interventions, at the same time considering governance and behavioral change. And the way we undertook the research was very thorough, and we tried to use as much as possible a parts of three approach. And we tried to ensure that the voices of women from across the globe were heard and included into the research. And the partnership with the UNDP for this has been quite important, also to ensure that we were covering different geographies and socioeconomic conditions for women. So what we did is, in addition to the primary research, looking at publications, reports from across the globe, case studies, we undertook a global survey, which had 700 responses. And also we organized 2 co-creation workshops, which had participants from across 6 continents, 20 countries, and 40 locations. This to say that we try very hard to make sure that we were capturing different perspectives, different point of views in terms of women experiences in cities. So drawing on the research findings, we then identify 4 key thematic areas that you can see on the screen. And these 4 thematic areas, they can be used to understand women's challenges and opportunities in cities, and also to influence how cities are designed in a more inclusive way for women. The 4 themes are safety and security, justice and equity, health and well-being, enrichment and fulfillment. And in the publication, we've been used these themes on one hand to frame the different challenges that we identify that women face in cities, but also to present the strategies and actions to address those challenges. As I said, our strategies mainly focus on spatial interventions because, as I said, we wanted to create a connection between the needs and challenges of women in the built environment, so the overlaps of these 2 kind of areas. But at the same time, we have considered both governance and behavior change activities because they are kind of the backbone, extremely important for the success of any intervention. You can look at these 4 different themes separately, depending on the key issues that you identify in your cities. But our advice is to look at the 4 topics together, and so to have an integrated approach to planning and design. Because if you focus only, for instance, as I said, on safety and security, you're going to miss out many other important topics that can contribute to improving also the safety and security of women. So I will take you now through each of these themes and giving you some background, at the same time explaining the different strategy and actions we identify and some case studies. Yeah, so we start with the first one, which is about safety and security. So when we talk about safety and security, we look at both the perception of safety and security in space, but also the kind of physical safety and security that women can experience in spaces. Because the experience of or fear of danger in the built environment is also important to consider, because it can cause both mental stress, but of course also physical stress, and also impedes hugely women personal well-being, and also capacity to move around the built environment, their cities, in a comfortable way. So to frame the magnitude of this issue, I'd like to share with you some of the data concerning women's safety and security from around the world. In the publication, there are many more, but just to give you an overview of the scale of the problem. For instance, in the UK, 97% of young women have experienced sexual harassment in public spaces. In Italy, where I come from, every 3 days, a woman is killed by a man, and is kind of considered, it has become kind of a normal condition, and kind of considered as normal by the society. In Ireland, 55% of women feel unsafe traveling on public transports after dark. And 25% of people globally believe is justify the fact that men can beat their wives. So this kind of very painful data, but that's the reality. So that's, just to give you an overview why such a topic is so important. So we identify 4 strategies for improving women's safety and security in cities, which include the creation of safer streets and public spaces by design, providing safer mobility experiences, integrated gender responsiveness in urban climate strategies and plans, and also incorporate violence prevention in laws, and also to create awareness on the topic. So you can see here, though I won't take you now through each of the actions that we identify. You can see them on the screen, but you can give a read with more details on the publication. But for each strategy, we identify a set of actions that can be taken to deliver, to achieve the outcome that we want to achieve in terms of improving the safety and security of women in cities. And the benefit of implementing safety and security related strategies and actions to basically we create benefits not only for women but for the entire society, because on one hand, women have a greater sense of freedom. By implementing this strategy, we reduce the fear and also the crime for everyone. We improve mental and physical well-being. We create more walkable and livable environments. And also there is a greater use of public transport. And as a consequence, also a reduction in carbon emissions. So very important also outcome for the planet. So as you see, these by implementing this strategy, we're not, and also for the other strategies, for the other topics, we're not creating benefits only for women, but for everyone, basically. So to bring to life the strategies and actions that we identify, and in the publication, you can read many examples, many case studies that have been implemented by different stakeholders from around the world. And we thought it was important to include these case studies to show that it's not a rocket science, it's not something totally unknown, how to create safer, more secure places for women and for everyone that live in cities. But sometimes it's not a technical issue. In many cases, it's more a political issue or governance issue, the fact that some interventions are not implemented, or sometimes also like funding or lack of knowledge on how things can be done differently. So I'm taking you through 3 these case studies from around the world to show you how, for instance, the first one is from Melbourne, Australia, how the issue of safety and security has been addressed in different ways. So the first case study is about the work that also as Arup did with the Monash University in Melbourne, in Australia, where we conduct research on women's negative experience of the city of Melbourne. We use crowdsourced data using the free2be application which we developed with Plan International. And we basically assess over 900 safe and unsafe nighttime experiences. And from this insight, we identify lighting requirements that can improve the perception of safety in cities. And also we developed a nighttime vulnerability assessment. We're now using this approach to start any urban design process when we have to address also nighttime spatial, to address also nighttime spatial inequality, because what happens in many cases that when we do master planning, we normally think about is as if it's always day, if there is always light. There are not so many, there are of course approaches that includes also nighttime, but it's not like a normal or approach when looking at creating, looking at urban design in spaces. So consider different time during the day is also equally important, because the perception of safety, the way we experience and live the public space is different depending on the time during the day. The second example comes from Singapore, where the government is focusing in particular on the elderly population, and which is particularly affected by traffic accidents or high-speed roads. So the government established silver zones where there are clear signposting and also wayfinding, and they've been using flashing LED lights on bends and also roundabouts to slow down motorists. They also created, which I find quite interesting, is called the Green Man Plus, which provides residents with a car, in particular all elderly people, by tapping the card on the traffic light, they extend the crossing time by up to 13 seconds. And this, I think, is quite important, also considering the fact that elderly people can be slower in crossing the road. So it's an additional small attention that can really improve the safety of people. And of course, also people with limited mobility or disabilities. The last examples come from Lyon in France, where they invested 100 million euro to make the transit network nearly fully accessible, allowing 1.7 million people to use it. And every bus in the network is accessible, and 70% of the bus stops were also redesigned for people with limited mobility. Again, another good example on how a commitment from the government, investment from the government can really change the life and the way of navigating the city for people, in particular people with limited mobility or with disabilities. So now I'd like to talk to you about justice and equity in the built environment in relation to women. And when we talk about justice and equity in the built environment, we mainly refer to several factors, including governance, self-determination, land use policies, and also the availability and accessibility of key services that enhance the justice and equity of women in cities. And so why this justice and equity is important in cities? Here there are some additional data, also to give you a sense of the problem, the different challenges that women are facing across the globe. One is about unpaid labor, which is worth 140 billion pounds to the UK economy, and women continue to take on 3 times as much unpaid care and domestic work as men around the world. In India, only 20% of women are employed, and across the EU, women earn 37% less than men. Luckily, there was kind of recognition this pay gap, few days back, but that's still a huge problem across the globe. Doing the same job, but we earn less than men, just for the fact of being women. And globally, only 29% of women are in senior decision-making position. And this topic is quite important because in many cases, decisions are made by men who don't sometimes fully understand the different challenges that women face. And in many cases, they don't participate in debates where these challenges are discussed. In fact, many of the, most of the workshop or the presentation, where we talk about this publication, the majority of people coming are women. And this is because there is kind of also there kind of bias saying there is the perception that issues related to women are about women are only for women to attend and to discuss. And this is not the right approach. What we are trying to advocate for is that everyone needs to be involved, in particular men in senior decision-making positions. And the allyship of men in this position is, and then they understand that the gain about women needs in across different sectors is extremely important, so that the decision they take are informed decision that takes into account what actually women needs and wants. So that's why also in the publication, we really encourage men to read the publication carefully and with empathy, and to talk about it also in social media, or to create this awareness that things related to women are not just for women to understand, but it's for everyone to be involved and to take forward, because only through this collaboration we can really change, and this allyship really can change the paradigm that is now established in the way cities are designed and planned. So for also in relation to this topic, justice and equity, we identify 4 key strategies and a set of actions to improve justice and equity for women in cities. The first one is about mainstreaming gender-responsive planning in national laws and policies. The second one is about supporting women participation in urban governance at all levels, and also support the collection of gender disaggregated data and protect women's right to land and property. So again, we identify a range of benefits in creating more just and equitable cities for women, which don't benefit only women, again, they benefit the entire society. For instance, by creating laws and policies that address the gender, equality, we are basically placing a requirement to at national level that then goes to the local level to adopt gender equity objectives in city planning design. So this has to be mainstream not only at local level, but at a national level or regional level. Then, of course, depends on how the governance is organized in each country. But evidence show that city leaders who mainstream gender inclusion across decision-making activities, they ensure that gender equality is perused across the organization and within service delivery. Another important benefit is that by collecting gender disaggregated data, we enable better decisions, because our decisions which are informed by clear data, clear picture of the needs of this group. Because public spaces are not gender neutral, or facilities are not gender neutral. It's very important to understand the different needs of women, elderly people, children, so to age groups. So it's very important to disaggregate data to then take informed decisions in relation to planning policies, but also planning interventions. Another important thing is about land tenure, which gives women more control over their lives and also options of where they live. Like one data which I didn't show is that in Africa, only 1% of women own the land or the asset where they live, which of course has a huge impact on, on the control over their lives and also option where they live. Also here are some examples to bring to life these strategies, principles, and actions and the benefits that this can generate. Starting with the first one from Sweden, where in 2014, the government declared itself a feminist government with the intention of mainstreaming gender equality in its national and international decision-making. The second case study comes from the US, from Los Angeles, where the city, they use gender disaggregated data to monitor progress of some of their projects. In fact, they publish a report which is called an intersectional set of proposed indicators. In this report, they basically set some critical indicators for measuring progress on gender inequality. The same is gender equality. The same happens in Barcelona, in Spain, where the government used gender and race data to ensure public transportation, cycling and walking routes are suited to men's and women's needs. And then also they can provide low carbon travel options. The last case study comes from Canada, where the City for All Women initiative, which is a group of Canadian women from diverse communities, organizations, and academia, they design an easy-to-read guide on how women can raise their concern to city governments. And they provide a training program also that includes 5 full-day workshops where women learn about municipal elections, city budget, and also the right to engage with the city authority. And this is in particular important for newcomers in Canada, for immigrants, to get familiar with the rules that exist there. So it's a way also and to how to engage with the local authorities. And this is very important because we cannot take for granted, communication is very important because sometimes we take for granted that, and also the law said that if the law exists, it's your responsibility to be aware of it, but communication in particular for maybe newcomer in a country is not easy. And so it's very important to create this type of initiatives and platforms to create a better connection between city authorities and the communities. And to help each other, to help city authorities to take better decisions at the same time to make sure that people are aware, are informed of what's going on. So the third theme is about health and well-being. And the built environment, as we know, can play a critical role in supporting, in improving the health and well-being of women. It can provide for women specific needs which are related to physical and mental stability, or it can also and also can create better access to facilities and services that improve the physical and mental well-being of women. Again, I'd like to give you some data, share with you some data, also to show some example of how why health and well-being is important, what are the existing gaps across the globe. A critical one is about access to water and sanitation facilities, with 1 out of 3 women globally with no access to high quality, inclusive and safe toilets that meet their needs. In the UK, 60% of women are not able to access healthcare services. And globally, women and girls have the responsibility of water collection in 8 out of 10 households. And in the UK, 74% of homeless women have a physical health issue. Again, these are some data just to give you a sense of the key issues that women are facing in relation to health and well-being in cities globally. More are available in the publication. So also for health and well-being, we identify 4 key strategies on how to provide guidance on how to improve the well-being and health conditions of women in cities. First of all, it's important to create inclusive, active, and restorative public spaces and green areas. We need to increase access to physical and mental health care and nutrition facilities, and also enhance access to inclusive water, hygiene, and sanitation facilities, and provide adequate accommodation and housing models. And again, by improving the health and well-being of women, we are actually creating benefits for everyone, because we're improving physical and mental well-being, like for instance, access to nature is important not only for women, but for everyone, children in particular. Same for, the moment we create an environment that enable active lifestyles, we are basically improving the physical condition, but also like reducing the stress, and also, as a result, also reducing the pressure on healthcare facilities. And yeah, so this is just to show you some examples of the benefits that this type of approach can create for everyone. Again, some 3 case studies from around the world on examples of what has been done in different spaces, interventions to improve the health and well-being of women. The first one comes from Pennsylvania, from the Penn State University, where they are providing lactation stations across multiple campus for students, also for faculty staff, people visiting who need to breastfeed or pump while they are on site. And this is very important because sometimes there is a lot of stigmatization around breastfeeding. Women feel uncomfortable, they don't feel safe, and also is not. They don't feel that sometimes they are like in the right, clean, healthy environment. So by providing stations which are secure and that people basically can book in an easy way, the women basically feel safer, and also in this way we're basically creating an environment where they don't feel judged or where there is no stigmatization for breast feeding. The second example comes from Japan, where data are showing that women are more likely to commit suicide using railway network more than men. And so in 11 train stations, blue lighting was implemented to enable a calming effect. And this resulted in an 84% decrease in suicide by all gender between 2000 and 2010, compared to other stations which were studied without blue lighting. And I think, these case studies, I think is quite interesting. Of course, it's dramatic, but it's interesting as case study because it's showing that the effect of the blue lighting, which is basically is very simple technique, can actually have, and low-cost technique, can have an impact on women safety, because the blue lighting has like a good effect on the mood and behavior of people, and so such simple intervention in a railway station, actually we are improving the safety of women using those facilities. The third case study is focusing on housing, and it's coming from London, where this older lesbian co-housing, which is a collective of diverse lesbian women, which are age 50 plus, they develop an intersectional approach to residential accommodation. So they have designed several housing units with shared facilities, focusing on their needs and specific needs as an age group and also as gender identity. And with the intention basically to create a safe and diverse community which is built around democratic and feminist principles. So the last topic, or the last theme that we identify in our publication, is enrichment and fulfillment. And I think this topic is quite important because it's not duly considered in design and planning of cities. Because, cities the way they are designed, the way they are planned, they affect our experience of the world and how they basically empower. I mean, the type of message that they give can empower or not people that are moving around cities. In fact, the type of spaces, facilities, and events which city provide, and also the narrative they promote can help or can also hinder women as they seek to fulfill their own potential and achieve a meaningful and rewarding life. And these are some data why this is important. Like, just to give you, an example, in cities across the globe, only 2 to 3% of statues are named after a woman. In Paris, 27.5% of streets are named after a woman. In the US, only 28% of employee scientists, engineers are women. And in the UK, 1 in 9 women have had their drinks spike on a night out. So, as I said, this topic is normally overlooked because it's not, in the scale of priorities in city design and planning, is kind of not considered top priority. But it is equally important because, as I said, the fact that in only 2 to 3% of statues across the world represent women, it means that is a narrative that underestimates the importance of women and what women have achieved across the globe, because the rest of the statues are named after men or worse, or also some acts of violence that happen, or after dogs or animals, but not after women. So consider that there is a need to change the narrative around women perception and valorization in city space. It's also important to use city space as a canvas to tell a different story. Same for the streets or public spaces. And also women, again, it's important to focus on safety, it's important to focus on other topics, but also it's important to look at the need that women have, as anyone else, to live a fulfill, enriching life, where they have space for leisure activities, for cultural activities, at the same time for personal or professional development and education. So this topic is also very important to take into account in city design and planning in terms of spatial intervention, at the same time in terms of creating, in collaboration with other partners, the enabling environment to promote the education and empowerment. So also in this case, we identify 4 key strategies. The first one is about providing accessible and inclusive workspaces and schools. It's also very important to design for diverse and flexible use of public spaces, and also to create a safe and inclusive leisure and cultural spaces. As you saw from the data, the fact that women go out at night for leisure activities, and they're under threat, especially if they're alone. It's not giving the possibility to women to feel comfortable to enjoy their public life and leisure activities. And as I said, then it's also important to use the built environment to uplift women and also to recognize their history and their stories. Also in this case, there are some benefits that these strategies can generate, again, not only for women, but for everyone. In fact, by improving the representation of women in street names and statues, we are uplifting a women's sense of belonging and pride. And also, the creation of gender-inclusive workspaces can increase the comfort, the health, and the productivity of women. And also, of course, gender-inclusive education can improve women's access to jobs. And as a result, cities have a larger and better skilled workforce that, as a result, also boosts the... And these are other 3 examples from across the globe on how to improve women enrichment and fulfillment in cities' life. The first one is from the US, where the Pro Trade Craft, they created a toolkit on gender inclusion to equip senior workers in the construction sector with the ability basically to discuss codes of conduct with their teams on site. And this kit explains the use of inclusive language and also offers prompt for challenging discrimination behavior at work. For those who work, I don't know if you have experience working a construction site, but it's highly male dominated in the terms of the facilities that are provided, that in many cases they're not divided by gender. Also the equipment which is provided in many cases is considered the size of men, like the boots, the jackets. They're, for a woman, normally they're quite big. So this attention is very, very important. Something similar in terms of addressing this issue in the construction site is also happening in Sweden, where a company introduced a yellow card system to flag inappropriate conduct from construction employees. And this is important because it provides opportunity to learn from mistakes and also to modify behavior. Sometimes, there are things that we just take for granted, the language that is used, but in many cases can be also very offensive for women. So it's very important also to learn by our mistakes and to improve. So these type of systems can really help changing behavior, changing attitude. The second example comes from New York, where there is a tribute garden, which was designed to raise awareness and also pay respect to victims of domestic abuse. And as I said before, this is important because we are, through example like this, we are telling and raising awareness around different topics. And so we are telling a new story using the public space as a canvas to, to pass these messages. So the fact of having a tribute garden talk about domestic abuse is very important. It's a very important recognition of and respect for women who are, victims of these situations. The last topic, which now I know is very highly debated, particularly in the UK, is the 50-minute cities neighborhood concept, which, from my point of view, is a great concept in terms of improving the access, the proximity to key facilities, necessities in our daily routine. Because as you perfectly know, basically, based on this concept, you should be able to reach in 15 minutes by walk or cycling any type of facility which is important for your daily routine. And for women, this is quite important because public transport, in many cases, is not thought or designed, is not provided in a way that helps women, particularly women with young children, that in addition to, on top of work, they have to do several, shopping and errands during the day, and also with small kids sometimes, which takes a lot of time if not properly planned, not properly supported by good mobility options. So with this part of the presentation, I kind of wanted to introduce the different topics or themes or strategy that we identify as critical for designing cities that work for women. In the second part of the presentation, next slide, please. And now I want to show you a very practical approach on how making this change happen. Because as I said at the beginning, one of our goals was not just to create evidence and create awareness about the topic and to have an holistic approach, but as urban planners, so also for our own need, we wanted to provide practical tools on how to embed these gender responsive approach to planning and design in our daily work. So what we did is basically identifying, looking at the life cycle of a typical urban planning build environment project, identify key, across the life cycle, key moments and key actions that practitioners can, or also city authorities, can undertake to create better environments for women. Next slide, please. So what we did is basically identify two key principles or approaches. We identify gender-responsive project foundations and the gender-responsive project roadmap. And what we wanted to show is that it is very important to adopt an integrated and participatory approach to city making, because this can help you and can help us to tackle and address the multiple challenges that women face in cities, and also to identify solutions and opportunities together with them in many cases. And this integrated approach is also important because we don't want to work in silos, which that's what normally happens. To address this very complex issue and to really make a change is very important, the commitment and the collaboration across different stakeholders, across the public and the private sector, and in particular the involvement of women in the projects where we work. So to put in practice this integrated approach, as I said, we identify two kind of streams of work. On one hand, we identify some project foundations, which is kind of the minimum or the starting point for any organization, any practitioner working in cities to take into account to create the right environment for gender-responsive urban planning design. And the second approach is about how to embed this approach, these principles into the life cycle of our projects. So I will start with the next slide to present what are these key foundation principles. And basically the foundations, they include a list of practical steps that, as you can see it on the left, we identify different stakeholders, different actors from city authorities, urban professionals, developers, investors, and also community groups, that they can all undertake these basically steps to establish some foundational principles and to create the right governance and operational mechanism to enable the effective delivery of urban projects and interventions. You can see all these 12 foundations on the screen, which include, for instance, very simple but effective ways to create the right operational and governance mechanism. For instance, step one is about conducting a woman local needs analysis. Then is about developing a gender-responsive city action plan, which is step two. In step 6, you can see the adoption of inclusive procurement mechanism. And most importantly, in the Foundation 12 is like ensuring diverse voices and experience are heard when shaping projects. And so basically by implementing these 12 foundations, cities and stakeholders can create the right environment for gender-responsive projects. And also they will ensure that the entire community can have access, and it can also benefit from the creation of more inclusive, equal, and sustainable urban spaces. So as I said, this kind of some initial guiding principle, like the minimum, that is like a starting point for adopting this approach. So, so in addition to implementing the project foundations, there are also other actions which can be taken across every stage of a built environment project. So on the screen, you can see what we created, which is a gender-responsive project roadmap, which can be applied to any type of project. Of course, it needs to be adapted depending on the nature of the project. Projects that can be physical intervention, but at the same time can be also policies and strategy intervention. And this roadmap should be used by city authorities, city stakeholders to embed this gender-responsive approach into their work. And in the next slide, I can show you some examples, just to give you an idea on how this roadmap works. But looking, as you can see, the different stage of the project, like in stage 1, for instance, during the project inception, the first step that we are suggesting is to ensure the project team is as diverse and closely representative of the communities that the project is focusing on. And when there are gaps, this should be identified and they should be addressed through stakeholder engagement. In stage 2, when developing project options, this should be basically assessed against multiple criteria, which also include criteria from a gender-based local needs assessment. And this will help to ensure that the preferred option is the most appropriate for addressing the local needs of women. From stage 4, procurement, which is very important, one action which we are suggesting is that there should be a commitment within the procurement mechanism to deliver on gender equality, and that these commitments also are shared across the supply chain rather than just the lead contractor or consultant. And procurement often is in built environment projects is overlooked as urban planners and designers. In some cases, in many cases, we only focus on the initial stages or steps of the build of the project. But procurement is equally important because if we're not looking at the procurement, then there is the risk that even if we have included in the previous phases, in the previous steps of the project, this gender responsive principle, then across the supply chain, across the process, these get lost. While making sure that this approach is embedded into the procurement process, into the procurement documents, then there is a bigger chance that we are actually able to deliver the approach that we design in our projects. And then in stage 6, which is about measuring success, is also very important because once a development, a policy, or a strategy has been implemented, there's also the need to monitor, to measure the impact, and so to ensure that the anticipated gender-responsive project outcomes are being achieved. Yeah, so the publication was launched 1 year ago, more or less. Was November last year, 2022, October, November. So yeah, more or less 1 year. And we were overwhelmed about the feedback we got about this publication, and also about the coverage that it got in media. And it's not much for the results of the publication, but because we were happy that we identified a gap, and that was there, and that somehow we managed to contribute. In fact, the publication has been covered by different important journals, magazines, but also we were invited across by different organizations. Like today, for instance, there is a colleague of mine that is presenting the publication in Torino, in Italy. I was invited, but I couldn't do both because it was in person. So I asked a colleague to go and talk about the publication. Yesterday, another colleague was in another event. So there is a demand for this. And what I think makes this publication a bit unique is because we are really, I've tried very hard to look at the intersection between the needs of women from across the globe and the built environment. So looking at the overlaps, and so also to come out with practical strategies, practical actions that hopefully hopefully they make the life of urban planners, policymakers a bit simpler or easier in terms of adopting, being very practical in terms of providing suggestions on how to mainstream this approach, how to implement this. And as you've heard from my presentation, is not rocket science. It's nothing coming out of the moon. All the recommendations we are proposing are about creating the right environment that is safe, is inclusive, is healthy, and not only for women, but for everyone. And And sometimes the difference is in the details, in the way we design. Of course, the strategy must be there, but the moment you see the strategy, that strategy can work for any group that is overlooked in society. You know, creating an environment that works for women, we are actually creating an environment that works for children, that works for elderly people, and then as a result also for everyone, because it's inclusive, it's healthy, is accessible. And so that's why maybe, you know, it's important then to understand it's not rocket science, but it has to happen. But it's not happening. So I really hope, and I will conclude with the next slide, that, yeah, basically, designing cities that work for women, they basically translating better cities for everyone, which create multiple socioeconomic and environmental benefits across households, families, and local community, because the strategy which I presented, and you can read with more detail into the report, they can lead to healthier, to safer, to more inclusive built environment that works for everyone. So I really hope that you found this presentation useful. I hope you will read the report, and you will take and further development the principles that we are suggesting, the action that we are suggesting, and implement in the work that you're going to deliver in the years to come. Thank you very much.